Hello everyone, you have joined us again for another session of digital cover collections from Coffe magazine. We have with us today Darryca. She is the owner and the founder of Focus Fairies Mentoring, which empowers young girls to
personal development
and leadership. I knew that. Welcome, thank you for joining me today. Everybody know my name is Coffe Iman, I'm your host. Miss Darryca, so mentorship. That is not an easy task.
No.
And you jumped right into it with empowering youth.
Yes.
So let's hear that background story real fast.
Yep. So I think what really stemmed me to even empower the youth is I always go back to my 10-year-old self. And that 10-year-old girl a lot of times felt alone, abandoned, and didn't have somebody to really walk alongside with me in life. Mm-hmm. I had to become a caregiver early, raising nieces and nephews. And so a lot of times, yes, I became successful, but I also struggled in silence. And I was as I became an adult, I'm if I could reach back to help one girl find her wings and soar in this world of adversity, then my mission is accomplished. And so that's how Focus Fairies Mentoring became.
So instead of surviving and just getting out of there,
right,
and saying, okay, I don't want to have nothing to do with people that had the same issues I have, you chose to go back and bring those people, I guess, save them out of their situations. What has been the hardest part in doing that? Have you had to relive any trauma?
Oh, definitely. I think the biggest part is when we start really tapping into the violence prevention work, especially going into the juvenile center. So my dad was incarcerated all of my life. And so as a child, I remember going into those spaces. And every time I go visit some of the girls in JDC, it's a trigger for me when them doors close. I flash back and I'm oh, Lord, I feel something inside of me yeah, this is a familiar space. And for that, I still struggle with that area. One, because I never got closure from my dad because he passed away. And then two, it's just still trauma that's there that I'm working through. And I think additionally, it's the violence. I've lost my best friend. I've just recently lost my cousin and nephew. And then to just see some of our girls who have to go through that vicarious trauma, some of our participants that have lost their lives, that's triggering within itself. And so, yes, I am a mentor, but I also have to stay in my word and stay in therapy to continue to stay in this space.
Now, you mentioned therapy, which is mentioning fast food, I guess, in the Black community. What aspect of therapy do you have to undergo? And do you act as a therapist yourself?
So I think the biggest thing in therapy is going deeper than the surface, right? So I started therapy and it was cool. And I was talking to my therapist and I felt like she was becoming more of my homegirl. So I had to pivot to a different therapist who went deeper.
Oh, got it.
So I really started to have to dig through the surface, go deep, look at myself. I had to do a lot of reflecting. Girl, you're the problem in some of these situations. It ain't the people. And so I don't consider myself as a therapist, more so as a coach or advocate for those who may have similar struggles. Because I don't try to help girls or women go through things that I'm still going through.
Now, a lot of people say that they will use the phrase or the thing, if you haven't gone through it, you can't advise on it. But I kind of beg to differ. In your experience, have you found that as a hurdle, or have you found that it's almost easier to instruct someone that maybe has not gone through the same things, or give that advice if you have not gone through it?
Right. So I agree. I don't feel like you can I feel like you could give them the best advice for a similar situation that went through, to the point of which it's okay, now it's getting a little too deep for me, and I don't want to just give you, false hopes or dreams or just empty information. Now it's time for you to either seek somebody who has a little bit more expertise.
Okay.
But I feel like you can still, for example, someone who may have went through physical abuse, but I went through emotional abuse. Abuse is abuse. So you can still help and assist. But when it gets to, again, that level of okay, I don't know what it means to stay with a boyfriend who, abused me. But I know what it is to stay with a boyfriend who called me out my name and belittled me and gaslight me, So I feel like in some instances you can, to a certain point.
Okay. So in this mentorship, what is the oldest, I would say, what is the oldest person that you have to mentor?
So right now, the oldest girl in our program is 18. Yep.
And the youngest?
7.
And so I'm assuming you have a team.
Yep.
In building this team, what do you ensure that the team has to be equipped for 7 to 18-year-olds? That's like 4 hormonal cycles right there.
Right, exactly. So how the program is structured is we have mentors who actually do the one-on-one with our girls. And then if it's more an intensive mentoring, we go reach out to those who have those special skills. Like they have trauma-informed care training. They have the DCFS training because, again, you don't want to work with a girl and you saying things that's triggering. You know, dress in a certain way that's triggering because it has happened before. So we really have to be intentional with who we are matching our girls with that mentor.
Now, it's all females?
It's all females.
Okay, and in this process, what are the pillars that you approach or that you make sure that you hit within Focus Fairies?
Yep. So our 4 pillars entail, of course, youth development, where we do mental health, youth empowerment. We have creative expression and spirituality. So we tap into them creating new narratives for themselves. We have career readiness and education. And then our last one is violence prevention and safety.
Okay. And with the violence, you said it's tons of violence in prevention. What has your success stories or your success rate look like?
So we received funding from the state to do violence prevention in North Lawndale, which has been beautiful. We've been able to help over 250 people in North Lawndale, whether it's with jobs, it's with therapy, it's ensuring that they have the resources that they need. Some of our participants are both male and female. So a lot of times females are left out of the conversations. And so I am really proud that Focus Fairies is champion for women and girls who experience this violence, and not just gun violence. There's all different types of violence. And so sometimes, in that space, people look at it as just gun violence, but you have gender-based violence, you have bullying, you have domestic, etc. So I'm proud that for the last 3 years, we've been holding strong and really advocating for these girls and women. Yeah.
So imagine that being as taxing as it is emotionally, probably physically, because now you're drained with solving everyone's problems. How do you take a break? What does your personal life look like? Do you find those things resurfacing?
So what I don't play about is with my mental health. And I am really, really great with creating boundaries.
Okay.
So I know when it's time for me to take a break or step away, I know that about myself. Now, it took me time to learn that because back in 2019, when my best friend got killed, both of my parents were diagnosed with cancer. I lost my uncle. I just kept going. I kind of put it to the back and just was you know what? I don't want to let people down. But I was raggedy. My leadership was raggedy. Yeah, I just felt like I wasn't the best version of myself.
Yes,
you know? And so last year when I lost my cousin to gun violence and my nephew and a few other friends, I'm I got to take a break. So I took 2 months off. I told my team, I got to step away. I need time to just grieve and be okay. And so I took 2 months off. I traveled a lot. I went out of the country 5 times last year. That's my getaway. When I feel I'm stressed out or I need a break, I will book me a trip and just go.
Now, didn't you or were you guys planning to take the children you mentoring in different countries or out of town? What did that look like?
Yep. So we were looking to take some of our girls to St. Thomas. We really wanted them to experience, what it is to go to another space, see the different adversity or challenges that they go through to let y'all know some of y'all are privileged and you don't understand it until you see it on the other side.
Sure.
And so we were in the process of doing that. But again, with just all of the things that was happening in my personal life, I just didn't have the capacity to take on that project last year.
Now that becomes the word, I think, with entrepreneurship, period, is capacity.
Oh, yeah.
So you are taking not only your load, but you are taking on the load of the people you're mentoring. So when do you find your capacity being met? When is it just enough is enough? And has it ever given you the notion that you should pivot out of mentoring? Has it just been okay, I'm done?
So I feel like I've been there before, and I'm like, you know what, I'm tapped out. But again, God come back and he'll give me something, or something come up, or it'll come in another way. Like with my She Treat experience, it's like, no, you're not. Like that's what you think. But I think with capacity, it's like he's been sending me some amazing women on my team. Like really taking a lot of things, like the day-to-day things that I was dealing with, they're handling. He's been sending some great mentors to us. So I originally had like 4 girls I was mentoring. Now I can shift and pivot some to some of the other mentors. So I think when we think about capacity and what we ask and say that we need, and he starts sending it, it's like, I don't have to necessarily stop. Now, I'm okay with pausing or pivoting, but that don't mean I'm going to stop. Yeah.
Right. Nothing's wrong with that. I see that. Yeah. So it's good that you've been given that break and that you have the assistance you need. And then let's go back to this She Treat experience, because it looks more than like a good time that you are having, and it's probably much needed. So tell me what that looks like and why you began that.
Yep. So She Treat really came from a space of just like needed to treat myself. Like I was busy, I was doing Focus Fairies part-time, working a job, all these things, and I was burnt out. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just take myself on a weekend, staycation, and just treat myself to yoga. I did all these things. And I was like, well, you know, other women might need this too. So I started to open it up with just like my inner network. Okay. And then from there, it kind of now has grown. So this is our 7th experience. 7th. Okay. Yes. So last year we went to Greece. The year before that, we went to the Bahamas. And this year we're going to Bali.
How do you sign up for this? Is this just exclusively to the Focus Fairies Mentoring group, or is this the She Treat group? Like, so how does that work?
Yep. So I've created a community on Facebook. It's the She Treat Experience group. Okay. And so I usually like post all of my experiences there. Like I do a lot of email marketing as well for the women within my network. Yeah. And so you fill out an application, you know,
the application is needed.
The application is needed. You go through an interview process, and then if you're selected, then you are now be a part of it.
You gotta be special to be treated. I get it. Okay, round of applause for that. I totally understand. And so that break has to be needed. I'm glad that you're empowering these women and giving them a voice. Now, have any of these women from the She Treat experience have pivoted over to mentoring, or have you found ways to let them assist you in that aspect, or how does that work?
Yep. So some of the She Treat experience ladies either work with Focus Fairies, they are mentors through Focus Fairies. They may come back and do some consulting or some workshops. So it's interchangeable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in this uphill climb that you have, building Focus Fairies, what are things, like say in a dream world, that you say, if somebody saw this, what are like some things that you need immediately to create a better mentoring group or expand it?
Right. So I think, of course, funding is always number one. Funding, like really tapping into that multi-year funding, where it's not after the first year, now we scrambling and stressing about the second. So I think that's the biggest thing. But I think outside of funding is like, I'm looking for a mentor, like somebody who can mentor me in this growth level of Focus Fairies. We're 8 years in. You know, we have raised over $500,000. So now I'm at a different level, and I'm looking for a mentor or a
mentor
coach
to assist you.
To assist me.
Okay.
Yes, and my team to like now help us to go to the next level, like to think about things we're not really thinking about in the space that we're in.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people get to a level where they feel like advice isn't needed. And so you have not only built it from scratch, but then when you've received a level where people like, you should be comfortable, you got this, you are asking for assistance, advice, guidance, mentoring at a higher level. So what would that look like for you in a perfect situation? What would that mentor come in and do for you?
Again, just help me to expand my thoughts, like a thought partner. Process. Yeah, so help me think about like strategies that goes beyond just a Chicago. Like I'm thinking about a national organization. Yeah.
Let's think about global. So globally, Focus Fairies, right? Because there are high levels of violent or abuse situations taking place with our young women as well as our older women. So if you can catch that before it gets too far, I feel like that's an A+ effort right there. So
and so just somebody who could like, you know, pull it out of you. Sometimes we feel intimidated or you know, that little imposter syndrome slip in, and we be like, can we really do this, girl? Yes, you can. Definitely can.
Yes, capital Y.
Exactly. Yes.
So is it hard mentoring keeping your team motivated to think that it's a yes? Because usually when you have the vision, it's always a yes.
Right.
People say, "Well, Coffe, how you?" I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm doing it tomorrow.
Right.
So how do you get the group in the same energy that you have? How does that look? How does that manifest?
We do it through like our like retreats or our leadership retreats or in our meetings. Like, I'm always ensuring that my team feels like their voices are at the table. Like, yes, I'm an executive director, but you also play a part in this as well, because I can't build this thing alone. So how do you feel about it? I'm gonna listen to like what you're saying. If you don't feel like we can't scale globally, why? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Because if it's those things, baby, we're gonna rebuke that. So what is it? Like, and then what's the strategy? Like, so I always try to include my team in it.
Okay. Now, have you had an emergency situation where you had to, where the parent was the abuser and you had to, I guess as an advocate, say something to release this child? Yeah.
I've never like encountered that personally. No.
Okay.
I had a situation where a student was, going through some suicidal things, and me and the mom had to walk her through it, but never like where they were abusing.
And where do you think that stems from? Because some kids are not at an abusive state, I guess, on the outside, but mentally they feel as if they're abused. So what are some key things to look for if you feel like, well, they have a good home, they have good parenting, they have a good school system, and the child is still suicidal? Yeah,
I think it's always, no, I don't want to say always. Most time it's like the quiet child, that's the quiet student that's really in the back, that's timid, who like don't like to speak up, who like really try to stray away from like group activities. But then like when you really talk to them one-on-one and you start to pull, you can see like some things that they may be dealing with. So I know, just like identity is like the biggest thing that we see a lot of our students, suffer with, and it's not acceptance from the family. Or, these Gen Z students are very vocal. And so sometimes like, growing up, it's like, you can't, the parent, I can't tell you how I feel. It's like, who you think you is? Like, you're the child. And it's like, well, are we really letting them know, like, their feelings and emotions don't matter? So then they get shut down, and now they feel like they can't say nothing. Now they holding everything in. So we would love to team up with the parents a lot. So the parent engagement is definitely a growth area. So we now have an intern who is specifically working on our parent engagement. So we do have some support from some of the parents, but others we don't. So that's the area that we're trying to improve on.
I would think that would affect the actual growth and the healing of the particular individual.
It do in a sense, because like we have access to the girls through our community partners. But if we like teaching them about wholeness and health in our space, but they go back to a broken home, how do we like capture that moment and think about this holistically? And the only way to do that is to tap into the caregivers. But sometimes the caregivers are broken. They need help. They need support.
You say we beyond our capacity.
But then that's when we provide wraparound service.
Okay.
There it is. We provide that wraparound services. It may not be Focus Fairies, but it's a plethora of organizations that do that work.
And do they communicate with you as well?
The parents?
No, once you refer them to these outside sources.
Yeah, so once we like make the connection to the outside source, and then after that, then it's like it's no longer under Focus Fairies. It's more so of that community organization. Yeah, well, we're trying. Like we made progress. So we have a parent program.
It's the effort that I love.
Oh yeah, listen,
because you can simply say, "Oh, the parents are not helping. I'm not helping. I don't care," and it's over with. So I appreciate the effort part. Well, that's what's up. Well, I like to make sure that in each episode we have that you are able to give advice or give us your favorite quotes. So let me know, what's your favorite quote? Like, what gets you by, even if it's just this week? What motivates you to keep going?
I don't know if I have a necessary favorite quote, but I do tell myself, like, I am enough. And when I'm not enough, that's enough too. And that just helps me keep going. Like,
you are enough. You are enough. Tell me about that.
You are enough. And in days when you feel like you're not enough, you still enough.
And that's a word.
Yeah.
I appreciate you joining us today on our special digital cover collection series. Ms. Darryca, you are a pleasure as always.
Thank you for having me.
And I wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully you guys are hearing this. You make sure you contact Miss Darryca. And where can they contact for Focus Fairies? It's What's the website again?
It's focusfairiesmentoring.com.
Okay. So make sure you visit their website. Funding is a must. Make sure you donate. Make sure you give them every piece of information you have. If you have resources you just want to share, she's open to that.
Yes.
So I appreciate you coming out. Oh, it's just so lovely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. You have a blessed one.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.